Most people think that the secret to building wealth is having a huge paycheck or making six figures. But after years working in investment banking, I can tell you that that is not it. In fact, some of the most financially secure people I know don't earn huge paychecks. They just did things in the right order. And so in this video, I thought it would be interesting to show you exactly what that order looks like step by step. And by the way, if you're new here, hi, I'm Nisha. I'm a qualified accountant and a former banker. And if you're watching this before Sunday, there's still time to join my free investing workshop where I teach you exactly how to start investing with confidence, even if you have no idea what to invest in yet. You can find all the details through the link below. Let's dive in. I want to start by uncovering the hidden tax. And that is that most people think that the biggest mistake is picking the wrong thing. And it isn't. It's actually waiting to pick at all. And most people will actually lose more money to waiting than they ever will to a bad investment. I see so many comments on any investing video that I put out asking things like, okay, but that's all well and good, but what account should I use? What should my strategy really be? How much should I put in? Can I really get this 10% return that you're supposedly talking about? And all of these questions, whilst they are totally fair, most of them become irrelevant the moment you just start. What is relevant, though, is how long you wait to start. And I want to show you why to really drive this point home. So imagine you invested 100 and earned a 10% return in the first year. So by the end of that first year, your investment, it'll be worth 110. Now, if your investments grew by another 10% in year two, you wouldn't just earn another 10, you'd earn 10% on the full 110, meaning your investment would grow to 121. Even if you didn't actually contribute a single penny more. And over time, this effect can become very, very powerful because each year your money has the potential to generate returns, and then those returns start generating returns too, which means growth can start to snowball over time. So now 100 turning into 121 might not actually sound particularly exciting, but imagine investing consistently for decades instead. For example, if someone invested 500 a month, let's just say, and earned an average annual return of 8%, then after 30 years, they would end up with over 700,000 despite only putting in 180,000 of their own money. That means the majority of the final amount came from the growth, not the money that they had personally put in. So, okay, this is all good when it comes to theory, but how does that actually apply in reality? And how does it impact the money in our own pocket? Well, I want to give you two people side by side so you can compare. So imagine two friends, Sonia and Susie, both aged 35. They watch a YouTube video about investing. So Sonia is nervous about investing, but she decides to start anyway. She opens an investment account and she starts investing 300 a month, earning an average annual return of around 8%. Susie, on the other hand, she tells herself that she'll start once she's done more research and when she feels a little bit more confident. She wants to, make sure she's making the right decision. 10 years pass, and only then does Susie start investing the same 300 a month. By the time they both turn 65, Sonia could end up with around 425,000, while Susie might have closer to 171,000. So they both invested 300 a month and got an average annual return of 8%. The only difference is that Sonia started 10 years earlier than Susie did. And what's even more surprising is that Sonia's total contributions aren't that much higher than Susie's. Sonia invested 108,000 over a 30-year period from age 35 to 65 and really benefited from a massive 317,000 of growth. Susie, she invested 72,000 over 20 years from age 45 to 65, and her investments grew by almost 100,000. That difference is the hidden cost of procrastination, because when you delay investing, you're not just delaying contributions, you're delaying time in the market. And this is one of the biggest things that helps compounding do its job. And I wanted to start there because the order you do things in still matters. It very much matters. And I'm going to share my preferred order with you today. But what I want you to avoid is the trap where you spend years researching, overthinking, and waiting for that perfect moment, because perfectionism really can become procrastination. And procrastination, as you've just seen, is very, very expensive. So with that in mind, let's take the first step. And that is step 1, building your runway. This is boring, but is an absolute must when it comes to investing your money. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they first start investing is they go all in without any sort of safety net. They jump straight in, they put their money into investments that they're convinced that's going to go up. And almost without exception, it doesn't go the way they planned straight away. And why am I calling this the runway? A runway, it gives a plane the room to take off safely. And without one, the plane most likely won't fly. Your runway, which is another word for your emergency fund, it works the same way. It's what gives your investments the space they need to actually work. And I know you're here to invest, not really to save, but skipping this step is one of the most counterintuitive things you could do for your finances and can really set you back. And I'm not just saying this for the obvious financial reasons. In fact, there's research from behavioral economists that have found that financial stress isn't just bad for your finances, it literally reduces your capacity to make good decisions. When you're worried about money, your brain is consuming mental bandwidth, just managing that anxiety. So when your investments drop 20% during a market downturn, which happens regularly, you're not just emotionally stressed, you're also less equipped to make the rational call to stay put, to stay in that investment. And so without a runway, you may have no choice but to act on that stress. Either you borrow money to cover the emergency, which then costs you, or you sell your investments. If they're down, you lock in a loss. If they're up, your money leaves the market and stops compounding. So either way, an alternative would have been better. That's why this runway, which is just a fancy word for an emergency fund, is just as much about your psychology and your well-being as it is about money. So how much do you actually need? As a general guide, 3 to 6 months of living expenses. It's usually enough to cover most emergencies and give you breathing space if you're ever out of work. And if you've got a stable job, strong employment protections, you might actually be comfortable with the lower end. If you're self-employed, variable income or dependents, you might aim for the higher end or even more. Once you've got that initial amount saved up, and we can then move on to the next step, which a lot of people miss entirely. And that is step 2, which is making sure you're getting the guaranteed return. In all of my years working in finance, I have never come across a guaranteed return on an investment like this one. Most employer pensions or retirement schemes work like this. As long as you contribute, your employer contributes too. In the UK, this might be workplace pension matching. In US, this could be the 401k match. The exact version varies by country and by company, but the principle is the same. The reason why you've got to be using it is there are so many benefits hidden within it. If your employer matches contributions, say up to 5% of your salary, and you put in that 5%, your money has just doubled. Before it's spent a single day in the market, it's already gotten a 100% return from your company. There is nothing in investing that does that. You're effectively doubling your money before it's even had any time to grow in the market. It's giving your investments a head start. And then on top of that, many retirement schemes come with tax advantages too, which can make them even more valuable. So again, using the UK as an example, pension contributions often receive tax relief, i.e. it's taken out of your paycheck before you pay tax on it. So ultimately, the government is effectively boosting the amount that's going into your pension. So how much should you contribute? At minimum, enough to claim that full employer match. Whatever your employer is willing to put in, you want every single penny of it, so match that. Beyond that, it depends on your other financial goals. You don't need to max it out straight away. And actually, I never did max it out when I was working in banking because of reasons I'll go into more detail in a second, which is ultimately doing it myself. But leaving that match unclaimed, that's like leaving guaranteed money behind. So once you've done that, we can move on to the next step, which is thinking more strategically about how to invest as tax efficiently as possible and making sure you don't fall into the tax trap. This is something a lot of people overlook. They spend hours researching what to invest in, but very little time thinking about the type of account they're using. And actually, the account that you use determines how much of your returns you actually keep. And using the wrong one could actually cost you thousands over time on the exact same investment. By the way, I'm not going to go into what to invest in this video, but if you're watching this before Sunday, you can reserve your spot for my free 45-minute investing workshop where we cover everything from how to invest and what to invest in and how to choose. also how to accelerate your investment returns over time, the single biggest mistake new investors make and how to avoid it, and how to calculate what you need to eventually live off your investments, and so much more. We've had over 75,000 people go through this same workshop when we hosted it back in November and then again in